Greatest NHL player for every jersey number. This is part 2. Let's go! For the number 9, it's Mr. Hockey Gordie Howe. This is a pick that I really shouldn't have to justify, but a lot of great players have worn the number 9, but Gordie Howe is the right choice here. He's on a lot of people's Mount Rushmores for the greatest NHL players ever, and if you ask Wayne Gretzky who he thinks was the greatest ever, he'll tell you it was Gordie Howe. For the number 10, I've got Guy Lafleur. Lafleur was one of the biggest stars of the NHL in the 1970s, and he's the all-time leader in points for the most historic franchise in the NHL, the Montreal Canadiens, as he put up over 1,200 points in under 1,000 games with the Habs. He's won 2 Hart trophies, 3 Art Ross trophies, and did a lot of winning too with Montreal, as he won 5 Stanley Cups while he was a Hab. My pick for the number 11 is Mark Messier. Messier is third all-time in the NHL in points behind his longtime teammate Wayne Gretzky, as well as Jaromir Jagr. And Messier was a huge piece of the Oilers dynasty that won 5 Stanley Cups, and he's the only player in NHL history to be the captain of 2 different franchises that won the Stanley Cup. So he was the captain of the 1990 Edmonton Oilers that won the Cup, and the 1994 New York Rangers. For number 12, it's Calgary Flames legend Jarome Iginla. Iginla was a combination of skill and toughness for the Calgary Flames and was the ultimate leader of that team in the early 2000s. He won 2 Rocket Richard trophies, won an Art Ross trophy as well in 2002, and while he never did win the Stanley Cup, depending on who you ask, he should have won one in 2004. He was also a first ballot Hockey Hall of Famer in 2020. For the number 13, it's Pavel Datsyuk. Datsyuk was one of the most fun players to watch in the NHL in his prime. He won 3 consecutive Selke trophies from 2008 to 2010. He won 2 Stanley Cups as a member of the Detroit Red Wings, including the 2008 Stanley Cup, which he played a huge role on that Red Wings team. And just recently, he was named to the Hockey Hall of Fame class of 2024 in his first year of eligibility. For number 14, it's Dave Keon. In 2017, Dave Keon was named as the greatest Toronto Maple Leaf of all time. He played for the Leafs from 1960 to 1975, and during that stretch, he won 4 Stanley Cups as a member of the Leafs, and won the Conn Smythe Trophy as well in 1967, which is the last time that the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup. For the number 15, it's Milt Schmidt. Schmidt played his entire NHL career with the Boston Bruins and led the team to 2 Stanley Cup victories all the way back in 1939 and 1941. He also won a scoring title while with the Bruins and won the Hart Trophy in 1951. So many great NHLers have worn the number 16, but I ultimately went with Marcel Dionne. Dionne is considered by many to be one of the greatest NHL players to never win the Stanley Cup. However, he won an Art Ross trophy back in 1980, and he's 6th all-time in the NHL in points. He also had 8 100-point seasons, and the only other 2 players in NHL history to accomplish that feat are Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux. For number 17, it's Jari Kurri. Jari Kurri was another huge piece of that Oilers dynasty that won 5 Stanley Cups, and he was there for all 5 of those Stanley Cups, and he mostly played on a line with Wayne Gretzky throughout his time with the Oilers, and had 71 goals in 73 games with the Oilers in 1985. He was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2001, and has his number 17 retired by the Oilers. For the number 18, it's Denis Savard. Savard spent the majority of his career with the Chicago Blackhawks and was an absolutely electric player for them throughout the 1980s. He had 5 100-point seasons while with the Blackhawks, including a 131-point season in 1988. He would eventually be traded to the Montreal Canadiens in 1990 and would go on to win the Stanley Cup with the Habs in 1993. And while he didn't play a huge role on that Stanley Cup team, he had 175 career playoff points, which is good for 18th all-time in the NHL, and he's a Hockey Hall of Famer as well. Like and follow for part 3.